Today's topic is...
The graves.
Ooh.
Not those kind of graves.
Oh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Waypan. I'm Cal.
And I'm Sunny.
We're going to be talking about the Warhammer skirmish alternatives, Frostgrave and Stargrave.
First, we'll pitch to you each of these games, and then we'll talk about why we like them.
After that, we're going to go through how they work exactly and tell you why you should check them out.
Now for the Frostgrave pitch.
Amidst the frozen ruins of an ancient city, wizards battle for the treasures of a long-forgotten empire. And many don't make it out alive, so this place has become known as Frostgrave.
In short, it's a magical gold rush in an ancient city where wizards battle each other for rare magics.
And now the Stargrave pitch.
The galaxy is in chaos, but every empire agrees on one thing: banning travel to where the extragalactic invaders came from. This region of space has become known as the Stargrave. Freedom-minded individuals pay this law no heed.
In short, treasure hunting in a galactic grey zone.
As heroic star captains.
Or vagabonds. And that's it for the pitches. So, why do we like it? Alright, Sunny, I think I know why you like Frostgrave.
Oh, yeah?
It was your first gaming experience and you actually enjoyed it. Or I should say it was your first tabletop gaming experience.
It was, but I think I also came in with the mindset that it was going to be extra complicated because my very first experience was actually with D&D, and when I found out about the 300-page manual, I was like, nope. And when people showed me how to play this game, it had just very simple steps. Like, there was 3 phases and you were done. We'll go through more about that later on, but it was easy enough for me to grasp the concept. And once I understood that concept, I was like, yes, let's go for it.
I think you also liked the idea of building a warband.
Yeah, I like that creative aspect where you can really come up with stories for characters and you can create like a bunch of different types of warbands for different sets of games.
And I think you really connected with some of your warbands. For example, when we wrote the various stories for our Frostgrave events, you're just like, no, goblin.
No goblin day. I especially like playing my apprentice. He was like the radical dude, and he's just like, hold on, old man, I'll get this done. And then you're the wizard, my wizard, mentor. He's just like, oh, this child, what he'll be the death of me,
And I think that's another part of it that you really enjoyed, putting some of that role-playing aspect into it.
Yeah, so something to point out, this game doesn't actually have an active role-playing aspect in it. It's just that it naturally encourages you to do so.
I think because of how everything else is set up, it feels so personable.
Exactly. Finally, the biggest selling point of this game is probably the fact that it's a miniatures agnostic game, and it encourages people to, again, be creative.
Can you hold up for a second? Explain what miniatures agnostic means to people.
It means you don't need to use any specific models for this game. You can use any models you have on hand that matches the description in the book.
And so why do you like this miniatures agnostic stuff so much?
Because you don't have to force yourself to get any super complicated or expensive models. You can do anything. Like, you could use the set that already comes specifically with this game from North Star Military Figures.
Well, rather than the set that comes with it, the set you can buy.
Sorry. But you could also 3D print parts. Like, no one's gonna be upset with you. Like, you have full creative control.
And so why do you like Stargrave?
I think you can tell from the different pitches, quote-unquote pitches, that they're basically the same thing.
Yeah, they are basically the same thing.
One is fantasy version and one is sci-fi version, so...
But I will say that this sci-fi version is much less specific to a genre. It's generic sci-fi, and I say that not in a bad way. So it could be Firefly, it could be Aliens, it could be anything like that, at least with the miniatures that they produce.
Yeah, so you're not bogged down by a very specific theme, like with Warhammer. It's
very
gothic
grimdark.
sci-fi and grimdark. So you can choose, not that you can't use Warhammer models, again, you can if you've got them on hand, but it's just generic enough that you can put your own ideas on it.
Yeah, you could have very high sci-fi with really techie looking guys, or you could go low gothic like, for example, Warhammer, like you said, or you could go like sci-fi western.
Yeah, so the places we got our 3D parts from that we converted alongside the North Star Military Figures was from Wargames Atlantic and
Anvil Industries. So here's one of the things that I'm first. This is going to be the first sort of knock against North Star military figures. We really like their bodies and their arm options, but their heads are...
Well, it didn't look really nice in the pictures. When you look in the book, they don't look the best.
Yeah.
But actually the minis, the plastic ones, they actually resculpted it to look a little bit better.
Yeah,
so
well,
not
I think
too
they
bad.
I think they look all right, but I think they can't compare with the 3D prints.
Yeah.
And it's great that we can have this discussion rather than talking about, oh, those wouldn't be legal in this event or that event or anything like that.
The restrictions are completely removed with this game, which is also why it's such a great starter game.
Yeah, it's a great game for painters.
Yeah, and you don't have to restrict yourself to people who only know game systems very well. If you've got friends that you want to bring into this hobby, this is a great game to start them out with.
And that's why I started you with it.
Yeah.
But let's get into the games themselves.
The Graves.
We're going to talk about both Stargrave and Frostgrave at the same time.
Just like with Warhammer 40k or Age of Sigmar, where they use ballistic skill and weapon skill, Stargrave and Frostgrave also use the same principles.
The Grave's key principle is the D20 system. Using a D20 makes things a lot more swingy. What do I mean by this? With a D20 system, there's a lot more variation. You've got results from 1 to 20, which is essentially just the scientist's version of a percentile system.
In a psychological study, a result of 5% or more is considered significant.
And that's a good way to take a look at the D20. However, the D6 is a much more grinding system.
Especially with the D6 system, where it requires you 3 steps to wound someone. Roll to hit, roll to wound, roll armor save.
The Graves doesn't have this system at all. Combat works like this. Both players roll a D20. Both players add their bonus to their D20 roll. The person with the higher number is the winner. The winner compares their roll to the other person's armor. This is literally a one-step system.
This is what Cal meant by very swingy. Let's take a look at a roll.
A knight is fighting a thief,
The knight gets 18 plus 2.
making 20, and the thief gets a 4 plus 1. And we actually literally did the rolls just then.
Yeah, we did.
So the knight compares his roll to the armor of the thief because he's the obvious winner. He's only got 10 armor and the thief only has 10 health. So he literally kills the thief in one hit.
Oh boy.
And that's what we're talking about when we say swingy. This system is used in both Stargrave and Frostgrave. But the thing is, just remember that you're not going to have rolls that random most of the time. But some of the times you will, and some of the times it will be the thief doing that much damage to the knight instead.
The second system is to roll against a target number. Once you roll your d20, if you beat the target number, you succeed. If it's below the target number, you fail.
Often you'll get a modifier to this. Perhaps it's your will, perhaps it's your fight, perhaps it's your shoot.
And now we've explained 90% of the rules to you.
So we can move on to the game itself.
Pre-game.
The first thing you must do is assemble your warband.
Or crew.
And that starts with your wizard.
Or captain.
Your wizard and your apprentice are the most important people in this game.
Same goes for your starship captain and first mate.
The only real difference is that wizards choose spells
And captains choose abilities.
There is a minor difference. Your wizard and apprentice are going to be linked at the hip.
But with Stargrave, your first mate doesn't have to have the same background as your captain.
Your wizard will have a school of magic and so will their apprentice, and they will choose spells based on that school.
And with Stargrave, your captain will choose his background and the abilities that come with it.
It's as easy as that, but a lot of people will spend a lot of time finicking over certain spells or abilities.
I will add that in my personal experience, choosing spells is a lot quicker than choosing your background and skills with your captain in Stargrave.
I would say this is because backgrounds don't limit you as much as your school of magic.
Exactly.
Now just give some equipment to your wizard
Or your captain.
and you're done. Next it's on to the warband.
Or crew.
You may have an unlimited number of soldiers up to the slot of 10, but you may only have 4 specialists.
This is the same with Stargrave.
Your major limiting factor in buying specialists will be your starting gold.
Or credits.
You only have 400 starting gold.
Or credits.
And to buy your apprentice,
Or first mate.
it costs 100 gold. It's the same for Stargrave. This is where we start to see some of the differences, though.
In Stargrave, there are specific types of treasures, physical or digital. And to get the treasure, you need to open the case.
While some of the times this is an issue for Frostgrave, mostly it's can the person move it or can they resist some magical temptation.
But with Stargrave, you might want specialized people like chiselers, codebreakers, or hackers to help you open these up.
In Frostgrave, you've got to make a choice between do you want heavily armored and armed guys or do you want a light skirmishing force?
With Stargrave, you're making those same decisions, but you need to think about how many tech specialists you're bringing with you as well as heavy hitters.
And that's it. You're done. You've made your warband.
Or crew. And now you're ready to play. I feel like I sound a bit annoying repeating the Stargrave alternatives.
Yeah, well, hopefully people get the picture now.
Setup.
Before each game, you must set up the terrain for the game.
But isn't that the same with any war game?
It is true, but both Frostgrave and Stargrave have specific scenarios for each game.
And each of them will have their own challenges for you to deal with. And this is similar to Mordheim or Necromunda, and other war games.
But there are some spells or abilities that you will activate now before the game begins.
Gameplay.
The turn order is decided by an opposing roll each turn.
If you've got multiple players, meaning 3 or more, you go by the order rolled, not clockwise or anti-clockwise.
Each turn is broken down into alternative activations. You start with your wizard phase, where you activate your wizard and up to 3 people within 3 inches, excluding your apprentice. Then you'll hand off to your opponent or opponents. Now they will perform their wizard phase. Then once they're done, you will perform your apprentice phase, which is the exact same as your wizard phase, just with your apprentice instead. Then you hand off to your opponent or opponents, the exact same steps happen, and finally it's the soldier phase, or as I like to call it, activate everyone else phase.
During the wizards or captains phase, wizards can use spells and captains can use abilities. This is the major difference between the two. Captains perform abilities, and these abilities have a strain cost, and depending on what the strain cost is, that much damage will be dealt to them regardless of whether they were successful in the roll or not. It's important to note that some abilities have a strain cost of 0, so that means there will be no damage cost to them.
Wizards roll to see whether their spell succeeds, and if they fail, they lose hit points depending on how bad they failed by. By less than 5, no damage. More than 5, 1 damage. 10 or more, 2 damage. 20 or more, 5 damage.
This is the major difference between the two games.
For the rest of it, it's pretty much the same. Moving, melee, shooting, picking up items, things of this nature.
Stargrave has additional rules on shooting, such as your guns need to be reloaded, they jammed, or you need to take cover. But other than these minor differences, the two games are pretty much the same.
During the game, people will pick up treasures and take them off the board, and then after that, this is the most important part, the aftergame.
The first thing we do during the aftergame is to check to see if the models that have been taken out have been fully recovered, require bed rest, have a permanent injury, or are dead.
Then we calculate how much experience you got from this scenario. Most of your experience will come from how much treasure you gathered, but you'll also get experience from using abilities or casting spells. You can also get experience from doing certain things during each scenario, which will be unique to each scenario.
Obviously, you can spend this experience to level up, but you want to hear about treasure. In Frostgrave, you get magical items, scrolls, and grimoires. In Stargrave, you get to discover forbidden secrets, advanced technology, and alien artifacts. In both, they can be used to upgrade your crew or warband, or your wizard or captain.
Don't forget first mate and apprentice.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the start of your ongoing campaign. You'll see where you go, who you become, and most importantly, who you're going to face next. Conclusion. So the reason I really love Stargrave and Frostgrave is because it has an interesting gameplay loop and the scenarios make everything different. It's not the same game over and over. And each time you verse someone, you start to form grudges and maybe you're like, alright, I can be nice to this person, but I'm going to be harsh with this person. And that's what we're talking about with the role-playing element.
Personally, I enjoy the planning of which moves I should go with first so that I can, one-up my enemy.
Yes, you and planning. That's a great combination.
Yes, it is. I'm the planner. I'm the planner. You're better at strategy and stuff.
Not based off your results. We think that you should check out Stargrave and Frostgrave. We think that they're great Warhammer replacements, and there's plenty of online resources out there if you're interested.
It's also a game that plays a lot faster, and it's a great game for painters as well.
You know, I know something that's good for painters as well.
Oh, what's that?
Keep those brushes wet. Bye-bye. Some call it the aftermath.
Others call it the end.
All we know is that everything has changed. What are we doing out here?
Some are just looking for the secrets of what happened.
Some are looking for power.
And others are just looking to survive.
Align yourself with the last church.
The technocrats.
Gaia's blade.
Or the mechanists.
Perhaps you're too free-willed to be aligned with one of these people.
But going it alone is dangerous.
No matter what you do, there'll be grave consequence. Grave consequence is an idea that we came up with when we thought about graves.
Yeah.
And basically we thought, why not have a more modern version of Frost and Stargrave where it's semi-post-apocalyptic?
Yeah, and I thought it was a cool additional theme that you could add on to the Graves trilogy.
Yeah, no, we thought maybe you guys would like to see how we would go about making such a game.
Yeah, creating the concept of this and, how you would create a game. And if you're interested in that, please let us know in the comments below.
And we'll add it as an option to the polls we do every week. So let us know if you're ready for Grave Consequence.